Good morning. Our hand today is going to be 9-8 of spades. So in this hand, early position player open raises to 2.8, folds around to me in the big blind. You can see that I'm deep at 312. He has 131 big blinds, which starts with like a 134. He's a 22-16. He is a somewhat aggressive player. Definitely, you could say a aggressive player. His he's running negative $34 right now. But early position, you could see that his raise first in's 19%, mid position is 24, cutoff 32, 30, 37. It keeps increasing, so he's definitely knows how to play position. He's not overly loose. His fold to 3-bet stats pretty high. There is, when we look at the aggression factor, he is capable probably of bluffing on the river. So, I think with his range is probably like 20% or so, 19%. This is 19.5, and this is probably representative of it. Pocket pairs, you've got, suited connectors, you've got broadways, not many offsuit hands at all. It's going to be pretty strong, and if I raise, he's going to dump easily half of it and probably continue with, his better pocket pairs, the suited broadways, maybe ace king, ace queen offsuit, could even 4-bet a little bit. So what's our play here? Well, we have a hand that falls inside of our 3-bet or call range. We could 3-bet, and if we 3-bet, we'll probably generate a fold. If we don't, then we're really going to need improvement on the flop. If we just call, there's probably a decent chance that we could pick up the pot on favorable flops, so without even hitting it. If you have like a single Broadway card, no guarantee that villain's going to miss it, especially if it's like a king or a queen, maybe even a jack. Maybe he c-bets and then he gives up and it allows us to take it. Difficulty is that we are out of position, so we're deep. What I don't want to do is 3-bet and then face a 4-bet, and we'll have to give up the hand. So I think he's going to 4-bet bluff. That's a good question. 4-bet after raising. He's got 18%. It's capable of it. So I think if he 4-bets, it's probably a 4-bet with like queens plus, maybe jacks plus, ace queen plus, maybe king queen suited, maybe ace jack suited. Just, he's not in a typical steal position. And if I have 2,000 hands on him, he has 2,000 hands on me, and he knows that I'm also fairly tight. Actually, probably tighter than him. So I think a call is in order. I think we're hoping to realize a lot of our equity. We don't have a huge amount, but what we're hoping for, since we're deep, is to flop big and maybe have him pay us off. So we called, and then the flop was Jack 10-7. This is actually a fantastic flop for us. Flop the straight, flop the nut straight, and now we have to start really considering how are we going to play this. I think villain's going to hit this flop. He's going to have ace jack, king jack, queen jack. He could have king queen. There's no flushes out there, unfortunately. He could have 7s, 10s, and jacks. He could have all of those. He could have his overpairs. So the question is, what kind of hands are we going to target for value? I think definitely we're going to get called by like the overcards right now. I mean, this board should just hammer his hand. I expect to see bet 100% of the time, well, almost 100% of the time. So I kind of think when in planning our hand, we're going to go for raises with our straights, with our sets, with our 2-pair. I think those are all going to be for value. And then our open-ender is going to be our open-ender, king queen's going to be a raise here, and I don't think we have enough here. We're about 50-50, which is probably about right. I think that the only hand, well, no, board's kind of wet. think if we check raise with jacks, we might get called. The only thing, maybe, if we feel like we're too even here, maybe we leave jacks and tens out. However, with this wet board, if we have jacks, I think jacks is the only hand really that I think we might not 3-bet. Because we want jacks in his range. I think if there's a jack, he could conceivably call with ace jack, king jack, and queen jack. Whereas if we hold the jacks, I think ace 10 can fold, king 10 can fold, queen 10, queen 10 might call once. So I think maybe jacks. Jacks is going to be a check call, and everything else is going to be a check raise. So I did check. Villain bet. He actually bet pretty small. And the question is why? Why bet small in this situation? I think maybe he bet small because he's scared of it, because he's scared of the board, or he doesn't really have a whole lot. So maybe he has these gut shots. 2 card. I mean, would he really bet 8s and 9s? I don't know. I don't think so. Let's see if we've got notes on here. I guess not. So maybe something like this. I'm not really sure bottom pair is going to bet unless it's part of like our gut shots. So I think maybe 83%. And then hopefully I executed the check raise. And the question is, how much should we check raise? I think we should check raise up to at least 6. So I think 5.4 might be a little too small. We check raise and we're expecting, so that's 83%. We're expecting to probably get 4-bet by the straight. I think sets, there's a question. Maybe sets raised now. Maybe they just call and go for a big bet later on. I mean, pot's still not huge. So maybe sets 2 pair call, over pair, top pair call. I think middle pair calls. 8s and 9s probably call, I think. I think the 2 card backdoor flush draws, they might. We're deep enough that he might call just with the draw. So perhaps everything he's going to call. I mean, he's getting rid of a couple hands. That's it. So that's why I think maybe raising to 6 or 7 might have been better. So he does call, and then the ace of spades comes out. And now that we, now that we check raise, the ace of spades comes out, and you could see that we would have continued with the straight, and I think we are continuing betting here. Pot 16, I think we should probably bet maybe half pot. That's actually a really good card for him. The only thing, king queen, we lose to king queen now. So betting 12, maybe a little too high. Question is, what's he going to call with? Straights. Maybe raising. Well, let's see this. I think king queen is probably going to call. Middle pair and the weak pairs are probably only going to call if they are related to the gut shots, and I don't even think we're going to get all of the gut shots here. 10-9. I think maybe just these. Oops, those, I'm clicking the wrong ones. So I think maybe just these are just gonna call. So we do bet and he calls, we'll leave him. Were any of these a raise? I don't know, I kind of feel like he might hold out on the raise until the river. So we'll continue. Jack spades, kind of actually a bad run out for me. So I think this we can probably just check call. I don't want to bet and then get 3-bet or get raised here. That's going to be really gross. So I kind of think we should be checking even with our straights. I think full house has value to continue. I think we're just checking, hoping he bets and we just call. Because I think if we bet again, what hands is he going to call with? I'm not even sure 3 of a kind is going to call. I think we're only getting called by straights plus. So that's why I kind of think if we just check, he might end up trying to take a stab with 3 of a kind, and we can get some value with that. Maybe even a top pair type hand if he decides to bluff. So he does call, and he shows ace queen, which I'm surprised he calls. I really am surprised he calls. Do I think if we check he would bet? Yeah, possibly. And he might have actually bet 40, which I think I'm prepared to call with that. Not happy, but I think I'm prepared to call with that. So did he have ace queen in his range? He did. I had it in his range. It's definitely a possibility. I kind of assumed he wouldn't have called since we check raised, but I mean, he did, so we got value out of it. And we could take a note on this player too. So how do I think I play this hand? I'm okay with the pre-flop bet or with the pre-flop call. I'm okay with the flop check raise. I think that's standard. I think the turn bet, we're leading the turn, but I think the river, we could probably, instead of going for a little bit of value, we should probably check. Now, that being said, this is a 5NL game, so at a 10NL, I think and 10NL and higher, it's probably makes more sense to check and hope he bluffs. Whereas at a 5NL game, I think there's going to be a lot worse to call. It just kind of depends on the player itself. Do I think the player is capable of bluffing? And I quickly took a look at his river aggression factor is 1.9. It's actually pretty good. So if we check, is he going to float? Well, he has floated 1 out of 1. I think this could be another spot, kind of see what he does. We check, he bets 40, we call. I think that might be a little bit better than the fire 3 streaks, because any thinking player is going to realize, hey, you know what, there's a straight on the board, or possible straight draw on the board. Now there's possible trips on the board. If I was check raising, I could easily have a full house now with either 7s or 10s. I could have Jack 10, maybe even Ace Jack for the full house. I don't think many players, I don't think many better players are going to be calling my half pot bet on that river. All right, hopefully you enjoy this. If you do, look again tomorrow.